My family forgot my birthday every single year like it didn't matter. But this time, I decided to forget the big anniversary surprise they were expecting from me. When they realized nothing was planned, they started yelling, "How could you do this?" I stayed calm and looked at them quietly. Then I finally revealed the reason. The invitation arrived on my birthday, a crisp, thick cream envelope with gold-embossed lettering that seemed to mock the silence of my house. I stared at the elegant script, my finger tracing the raised letters announcing my parents' 50th wedding anniversary, while the only response to my 48th year was the steady, rhythmic purring of my cat. I am Gabriella, and for 3 decades, I have served as the silent observer of my family's grand celebrations, always the narrator of their triumphs and the ghost at their feasts. My daughter, Paisley, burst through the front door, her sudden arrival shattering the suffocating quiet, her face instantly pale when she realized the date. "Oh my God, Mom, I'm so sorry. I completely forgot," she stammered, dropping her bag to pull me into a frantic, apologetic hug. I told her it was fine, though we both knew the hollow ache in my chest proved otherwise. I was accustomed to being an afterthought. She pulled back, her gaze falling upon the invitation in my hands. "Is that for the anniversary?" she asked, her voice hardening as she processed the cruel timing of the delivery. When I confirmed it, she snatched the envelope, reading the request for me to deliver the keynote speech for the 3rd decade in a row. "They want you to perform again, even after ignoring your birthday for the 28th consecutive year?" I tried to laugh it off, but my voice betrayed me, cracking under the weight of a lifetime of suppressed resentment. The phone began to ring, my mother's name pulsing on the screen, a digital command to fall back into line. Paisley looked at me, her eyes mirroring the bitterness I felt, reminding me of the humiliation from last year when my uncle's wife tried to wish me a happy birthday during the toast, only for my grandmother to shut it down to protect the sanctity of the anniversary. The phone rang incessantly, followed by a call from my sister, Marlo, likely already strategizing with Mother from her pedestal in London. Paisley grabbed my hand, her eyes flashing with a protective fire. "Let's leave right now," she urged, and before I could answer, my brother Trey texted, demanding I call Mother back to avoid being difficult. That phrase, so casually used by a man who once failed to even invite me to his own wedding rehearsal, stung more than usual. I showed the screen to Paisley, who rolled her eyes, reminding me that Trey didn't forget. He simply assumed I wouldn't want to attend because I was busy writing my little stories. My father called next, 3 times in 5 minutes, turning an anniversary request into an orchestrated campaign of harassment. I looked at the invitation again, at the elaborate instructions for the speech I had perfected over 15 years of standing before our extended family, weaving beautiful, artificial tales about my parents enduring love while swallowing the bitter reality of my own invisibility. Another text arrived from Vanessa, begging me to call Mother because she was getting upset. I whispered to myself that I knew exactly how Mother got when things didn't go her way. She demanded everything, while I was left with the silence of an empty house and the cold comfort of a requested performance. Paisley squeezed my hand, her voice steady. "You don't have to do this anymore, Mom." The words acted like a key turning in a long rusted lock. For the first time, I saw the fierce protectiveness in my daughter's eyes, an understanding that transcended obligation. A plan began to form, sharper and clearer than anything I had ever dared to conceive. I told her I was thinking that it was finally time for a different kind of story, and when my phone lit up with yet another demand from Trey, I felt a strange, intoxicating lightness. We decided on a birthday dinner, a celebration that was mine alone, and as I looked at my laptop, where my nearly finished memoir sat waiting for its final chapter, I knew exactly how to conclude the narrative. We grabbed our coats, ignoring the final, clipped voicemail from my mother insisting that I call her immediately because the family needed me. For 28 years, they had ignored my existence. Perhaps it was time for them to understand the weight of that absence. The morning after our dinner, I found a leather-bound photo album placed on my desk. My mother's classic, passive-aggressive signature. She must have dropped it off while we were out, a silent demand for compliance. I flipped through 49 years of perfectly curated memories, designer gowns, tailored suits, and crystal flutes, all capturing a legacy that never seemed to include me. My phone buzzed, and my mother's voice cut through the air, questioning my absence at the meeting. I told her I was celebrating my birthday, a fact she brushed off with practiced indifference, barely pausing before steering the conversation back to the anniversary. I interrupted her, pointing out the peculiar choice of photos in the album, particularly a shot from their 35th anniversary where I was barely a blur in the background, desperately trying to clean up a spill while the Golden family posed in the foreground. The doorbell rang, providing a brief respite from her grating, entitled tone, but my relief was short-lived when I found Vanessa at the door, sent by my mother to ensure I wouldn't cause trouble. I led her to my office, where she spotted the album and urged me to reconsider, claiming this anniversary meant the world to my parents. I opened the book to their 40th, reminding her of the time I gave a keynote speech while suffering from severe pneumonia, only to collapse immediately after and be rushed to the emergency room, all while the family kept the party going. Vanessa offered nothing but empty platitudes. I told her that in all these decades of photos, not a single one existed of anyone celebrating my birthday, not even once in 48 years. I closed the album, my resolve hardening. When I showed her my manuscript, titled The Art of Invisibility, A Daughter's Guide to Being Forgotten, she paled, warning me it would destroy them. I simply smiled and told her I wouldn't be giving that speech, because this year I wouldn't be there at all. Your last book, the one about the immigrant family in Detroit, was brilliant, Gabriella, Vanessa interjected, ever the desperate peacekeeper, her eyes darting between my mother and me. Thank you, Vanessa, I replied, my voice steady. Did you enjoy the chapters about the mother who actually remembered her daughter's birthdays? The air in the room grew heavy. My mother's wine glass froze halfway to her lips, and the clinking of silverware ceased entirely. Must you do this, Gabriella? Must you constantly write about such functional families? It is incredibly offensive to us, she hissed. It is only offensive if the shoe fits, mother, I countered. That is enough, Trey snapped, slamming his napkin onto the table. We are here to discuss the anniversary, not your literary career. I looked at him, feeling no shred of my former intimidation. My literary career pays for half of these lavish celebrations, Trey. Or did you happen to forget that too? Here we go again with the martyr act, Marlo sighed, rolling her eyes as if I were a child throwing a temper tantrum. Paisley, who had remained uncharacteristically quiet, slammed her hand onto the table, the sharp sound echoing through the dining room. Stop it. All of you. You sit here acting superior, yet you treat my mother like she is nothing. I have watched this my entire life. You take and take from her, expecting her to show up, give your precious speeches, write the checks, and play your designated role. But tell me, when was the last time any of you actually showed up for her? My mother bristled, her posture rigid. Everything we do is for this family, Paisley, she stated firmly. I let out a sharp, jagged laugh that seemed to startle even myself. Family? Last week was my birthday yet again. Where were you all? Not a single call, not a single card. Mother waved her hand dismissively. Oh, darling, you know how busy things get during the anniversary planning. I was in London, Marlo added, as if distance were a valid excuse for emotional neglect. Trey muttered something about a business meeting, and Father simply looked confused, as if he were trying to recall if he even knew it was my birthday. This, I said, pushing my plate away, is exactly why I am not giving a speech this year. My mother's face darkened with cold fury. You most certainly are. It is tradition. I stood up slowly, the chair scraping against the floorboards. Like forgetting my birthday is tradition? For God's sake, Trey, it is just a birthday. Stop being so dramatic. I looked him dead in the eye. Dramatic? You want to see dramatic? Check your email. I sent you all advanced copies of my memoir an hour ago. The room filled with the rustling of fabric and the soft tapping of phones as they scrambled to open the document. I watched their faces in the dim light, the color draining from their cheeks as they scanned the synopsis. My mother's hand began to tremble as she read the summary aloud. The Art of Invisibility explores the subtle cruelty of emotional neglect through one daughter's journey of surviving a family that perfected the art of forgetting. Trey whispered, "You cannot publish this." I smiled, cold and sharp. "It is already done. The release date is set for your anniversary." Funny how I remembered that date perfectly. Marlowe hissed, "This will ruin us. Our reputation." Paisley interrupted, her voice trembling with righteous anger. What about her heart? What about 30 years of making her feel worthless? Mother stood up, her chair screeching. "I will not be painted as some sort of monster in your little book." I replied quietly, "You painted that picture yourself, Mother. I am simply holding up the mirror." Mother turned to Father, desperate for an ally. "Roy, say something." Father looked at me for a long, searching moment, his eyes unreadable, before he looked back at his plate. "Pass the potatoes, please," he murmured. The absurdity of it was suffocating. I grabbed my purse, signaling to Paisley. "We are leaving." As we walked to the car, I could hear Mother's voice drifting through the window, already pivoting to the logistics of a new seating chart. Some things never change, but this time, I would not be there to witness the aftermath. The next morning, my publisher, Sarah, called, and I put her on speaker so Paisley could hear. "Gabriella, the early reviews are incredible," Sarah gushed. "People are calling it raw, unflinching, a masterpiece of dysfunction. We are pushing the release date up by 2 days to maximize the impact, 2 days before the actual anniversary." Before I could respond, a frantic pounding erupted at my front door. "Gabriella, open this door right now." My mother's voice boomed through the house. I hung up on Sarah as Paisley went to answer. Mother burst in, clutching her tablet like a weapon. "Have you seen these reviews? Do you have any idea what this will do to us?" I stood my ground. "Make you finally see me?" She laughed bitterly. "We gave you everything. Who paid for your college? Who introduced you to publishers?" I stepped forward, my voice rising. "Who forgot I existed unless they needed a speech? Who made me feel like I was never good enough, never important, never worthy of basic consideration?" Paisley crossed her arms, standing firmly by my side. "I helped her write the book, Grandma." Mother sank onto the couch, pressing her fingers to her temples as if trying to stave off a migraine. "The anniversary is in 2 weeks. Everyone will be there, the mayor, the governor's wife. It is the perfect audience for a book launch," Paisley muttered. My phone rang again, Trey. Mother grabbed it, putting it on speaker. "Gabriella, the morning shows want interviews with all of us," he said. "They are calling it a family reckoning." Mother snapped, "Absolutely not." Trey sounded stunned by her tone. "Are you at Gabriella's?" "She is trying to destroy us." I reclaimed my phone. "No interviews, Trey. The book speaks for itself." Mother looked at me, her eyes uncharacteristically glassy. "What do you want? Money? A bigger role in the party?" I shook my head. "I want you to understand. We gave you everything," she insisted, "except love," Paisley corrected quietly. Mother's phone chimed, and she paled. "Your father just got a call. The country club wants to postpone the reception until this matter is resolved." I couldn't help but smile. "Tradition, Mother. You can't break tradition," I teased. She accused me of wanting to hurt them, but I told her the truth. I wanted them to finally understand the depth of the pain they had inflicted through decades of forced performances and ignored milestones. As she left, she told me that my sensitivity was my greatest weapon, not my weakness. After she departed, my phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. "Good morning, America wants you tomorrow. Are you ready?" I looked at Paisley, who beamed at me. "Your sensitivity isn't a weakness, Mom. It's your superpower." I started to type, ready to finally be seen by the world. "I dare you to think back to your 16th birthday," Father continued, his voice growing stronger as he stared at the floor. "You wore that blue dress, waiting all day for us to acknowledge it. I saw you sitting on the porch until midnight, and I did nothing. Tears spilled down my cheeks as I realized he had been watching me all along. He had simply been too cowardly to break the cycle of my mother's cold expectations. I saw you, he whispered. I just didn't know how to reach you. Mother rose, her voice trembling with indignation. I built this family. I protected our status. But Marlo interrupted, her voice uncharacteristically sharp. And what are we, Mother? From where I'm standing, we're just well-dressed strangers who share DNA. Trey stepped forward, looking at the book as if it were a mirror. It mentions the Christmas I got engaged, he admitted, his voice cracking. How you announced it at dinner right after Gabriella shared her book deal, and we all just ignored her. I never meant to overshadow you. None of you meant to, I said softly, the silence in the room heavy with the weight of decades of neglect. That is what makes it worse. It was so normal to forget I existed. Mother stood rigid, clutching the book to her chest. What do you want from us? She finally asked. I want you to read it, I replied. I had to write myself into existence because I couldn't be ignored any longer. She opened the book to the final page, her lips moving silently as she read my closing thoughts about how sometimes you must disappear completely before anyone realizes you were there. She looked up, and for the first time, I saw her perfect facade fracture. A tear tracked through her makeup. I see you now, she whispered. The weeks that followed brought a whirlwind of change. The book became a cultural phenomenon, but the true transformation happened within the walls of my own home. My parents began showing up, not for performances or status, but for tea, for conversation, and for actual connection. Father gifted me the silver bracelet he had bought for my 16th birthday, but never had the courage to give, a small token of a regret that spanned years. Marlo invited me to London to reconnect, and Trey began attending family dinners with a new sense of humility. One afternoon, Mother arrived at my office clutching a leather-bound calendar. I'm rewriting history, she announced, showing me the dates she was filling in every birthday, every milestone, and every moment I had been forgotten. It didn't erase the past, but it acknowledged it. As we sat together, my daughter Paisley beaming beside us, I caught my reflection in the window. I was no longer the invisible ghost in the background of their photographs. I was finally undeniably seen. And for the first time, I knew exactly who I was.